former MMA fighter and actress Gina Carano has been on the receiving end of cancel culture recently for putting up her views on Twitter. Now, it seems that the breaking straw for a lot of people was one tweet in particular where people claimed that she was being anti Semitic. After she posted the tweet, people became enraged for her doing what they believed to be was comparing conservatives to victims in the Holocaust. Her tweet said, Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone based on their political views? So, the entire narrative that we read about in the headlines.
Yeah, thoughts? Anyone initially?
Uh, well, the Jews of the that were in Germany at the time were being shown as rats, and the posters that the Nazis put up on the Jews made the Jews look very, very bad. So her trying to say that Trump supporters are the Jews is ridiculous.
Why? Okay. So, because they show Jews as rats and they don't show Trump supporters as rats, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous comparison, but the spirit of the comparison is the same. Like, they're putting propaganda to make people have negative connotation towards Jewish people, right? And the same thing's going on, especially with the recent events of the Capitol riot, is Trump supporters are being demonized, or it's okay to hate Trump supporters. I think it's a very fair comparison. I don't think that's ridiculous at all.
Yeah. And I want to point out, too, that this particular, like the way he talks about this initially is that he talks about this is what her tweet said. Her tweet was a retweet, right? And it was from some podcast or whatever, Jim Priest podcast or something. It was a weird podcast, right? Some kind of weird, like, like, I don't know, alpha male, like, I don't know.
But they're sort of missing the point of this. It's not necessarily comparing Trump supporters to Jews. It's saying that, like, before you get to the point where there's concentration camps, there's steps involved, and the first step is make it politically incorrect to be Jewish, make it okay to mock Jewish, make it okay to laugh at Jewish people. That's what they did at first. Well, what are they doing right now with white nationalists? It's okay to mock them, hate them, talk. They're all domestic terrorists and racists and misogynists. That's okay. It's okay to say that, but you can't, like any other group, you can't say anything offensive about.
Like, super Jews bench press Jesus, something.
Right.
It was weird. So she picks this thing up, she peddles it on. He's trying to say, like, well, that's not what she's actually saying here. But I want to point everybody out to the first part of this, because the one thing that comes out with what and John here from What Do You Mean, he's trying to point this out, like, she doesn't actually use the term conservative. She doesn't overtly compare conservatives to Jews, even though this is not her tweet. It was a retweeting of a tweet with an offensive photo, right? The photo that's actually connected below this, and he shows it later, you can see the top of it in my video. Top portion of it, it's actually a Jewish woman in Poland fleeing a rape. Like, there's blood in her nose, dress is ripped, her lingerie is exposed, she's running away. But it's this part. Because history's edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. No, they didn't. It turns out there was an enormous amount of cultural animosity amongst lots of people in these populations towards Jews, always had been traditionally. It existed in a lot of Eastern European cultures and Western European cultures. And what the Nazi government did was just tap into that animosity and give them a little bit of promise of the release of that aggression towards these interlopers, these disturbing insiders that needed to be culled and purified from their midst. If this sounds from
You know, that isn't true, Jefferson. The Nazi government, they put in they were used the education system to teach hatred of Jewish people in the schools. Well, guess what they're doing in colleges now? They're teaching hatred of white males. Look at Maya D'Angelo. Is that her name? No, Robert. I don't know. With the book White Fragility is being put on a pedestal, and that book says that you are racist, Jefferson. Like everyone who's white is racist, and it's a very evil book, but it's being put on a pedestal. So I totally lost my train of thought. Shit. Oh yeah, that's it. They're pushing. They're using propaganda like books like this White Fragility book to and this college to brainwash kids to hate white nationalists. And they did the same thing in Nazi Germany. They used the education system and various. Nazi Germany was famous for its propaganda to make people hate Jews. The same thing's going on in America.
familiar, it sounds a little bit more like Trump's regime than anything that we're seeing right now.
Oh, of course. So it's ridiculous to compare Nazi Germany to anything Democrats do, but obviously the Republicans act like Nazi Germany. It's not. That's not a ridiculous comparison. This guy, like, oh my goodness. I think Jill is just as bad, or like people who are Republican are just as bad, because it's like these people, they think their party can do no wrong, and they never criticize their own party, and then they only criticize Democrats if they're a Republican, or if they're a Democrat, they only criticize Republicans, and they never take responsibility or have self-awareness of their own side. It's amazing.
So that's the reason why people react so partially to stuff like this. Also, the idea that John is going to get into here is that, well, Gina Carano didn't say anything about conservatives overtly. True. However, people that follow Gina Carano on social media know that she is a conservative explicitly. She stated it as a matter of fact. And if you didn't get it as a matter of fact explicitly, she has implied it, and it could be inferred easily from not only this post, but from other posts. So John is just kind of playing stupid here. So play on.
Views.
She's not a real political person though. That's the thing. Like he's trying to act like she's some hardcore conservative Republican. She's really just not even political. I think she would lean conservative, I guess, but I don't know. She's not a very political person. He's misrepresenting her, I think.
So the entire narrative that we read about in the headlines and the narrative that was given to people all around the world was that she was comparing conservatives to victims of the Holocaust. And this led people to verbally attack her all over the internet, saying the worst possible things that you could imagine to her. And eventually it resulted in her losing her role in the upcoming Star Wars movie, among other things. But as she pointed out in her recent interview with Ben Shapiro,
when I posted that, it wasn't something that I felt like was controversial. It was something that I thought, well, maybe all of us need to ask ourselves how that happened. Because, it's important. The post never said anything about Republicans or conservatives. It doesn't say anything about that in there. It was more about like, people tearing each other apart. And I thought it would be more of a thing where you bring people together. I was like, oh, this is like, bring people together.
so given that she was being
Okay, if conservatives like Gina Carano are that blinkered into thinking that that's how that's going to work, consider the reaction that most people would have when they see you post an image about one group of people being horribly attacked, and in the photo that was actually included in this case is a woman fleeing a recent attempt at rape, or maybe even a successful rape. Her dress is ripped, her face is bloodied, she's been punched multiple times, there's blood running down out of her nose and mouth. And she's just exposed. She's wearing, lingerie or whatever, and she's running. She's being pursued by kids. So that's the equivalent. That level of animosity is the equivalent to what certain political groups have to face from other certain political groups in this modern day age. The level of just, preciousness, the just, goofy idea that one group is being treated so viciously. Like if a liberal, if a left winger had made the same comparison, they probably also would have been pursued with the same kind of vitriol that Gina Carano was, because this is just a silliness that doesn't even, like, does anyone know that the woman in the image that's being used to traffic this?
It's unbelievable how ignorant Jefferson is on this topic. Okay, look at this. He said as someone on the other side did it, they would get in trouble too. This here is... This is Pedro Pascal, who's on the same show, works for the same company. This is why people are upset. It's because there's a double... This is what Jefferson doesn't seem to understand. There's a double standard. So he posted this. Losers in 1865, Confederate flag. Losers in 1945, Nazi flag. Losers in 2020, MAGA hat. That's a little... I mean, and he doesn't get in trouble. That's the whole point. There's a double standard. And he's also tweeted other things that are bad too. Like that. And I don't even think what Gina tweeted was really bad. It's just weird they're going after her because she just didn't do anything, by my estimation. But yeah, Jefferson doesn't know what he's talking about. So we'll just keep exposing how ignorant Jefferson... I don't know. These atheists follow this Jefferson spatchcock around, and they just like hang on his every word and never question him. And the guy is full of shit. So I'm just exposing like how he's totally full of shit here.
Particular trope. Does anyone know what her political views were at the time? Was she a free market capitalist? Was she a mercantilist? Was she pro-labor? Like, who gives a shit? She was born a Jew, she was targeted as a Jew, and she was pursued as one. That's all that mattered to her. If you think that your political ideology, one way or the other, and it's not to say that people can't be bigoted against you because you're part of a particular political ideological group. That is true. That's absolutely possible. However, you as an individual can adjust and change your political ideologies over time. You can change your political outlook. You can kind of hybridize them or anything. But in terms of like that, what that image is showing there, that woman cannot change the fact that she is born of a Jewish family and is therefore targeted by that particular regime and has no hope. No real hope anyway. So whatever.
So he's implying that, okay, so, oh, well, I was born Jewish and they hate me because of the way I was born. And, well, it's different to hate me because of my beliefs, because I can change my beliefs. Here's the thing. Gina... Gina wasn't, like, necessarily hated for... She didn't really do anything wrong. She's not really political. She didn't post anything that deserved hate. That's the point. So it's like they can just arbitrarily, randomly pick someone to hate and say it's because of ideology. It doesn't necessarily have to be about ideology. They're just arbitrarily picking and choosing who they hate, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Jefferson's acting like this hatred towards Gina is justified, and we're going to show that it is not justified later.
John here is trying to do in his weird little self-defense clip, or whatever Gina Carano is trying to do on her little snowflake tour on Ben Shapiro's channel, that's not the point of this stuff, right? And she's made a point of this kind of stuff. She's made antagonistic and passive aggressive slights at things like oh, COVID's not real. The election was stolen. Um, Trans pronouns don't matter. She's made light of all of these things. But now all of a sudden, she's just a babe in the woods when it comes to this subject. Yeah, it sounds like absolute horseshit. And the thing is, I love it when Republicans usually advertise themselves as wolves amongst sheep until they're caught out in something like this. And then
Okay, let's actually do the research. I'm sure Jefferson doesn't do that ever. Let's hear her horrible election fraud tweet. We need to clean up the election process so we are not left feeling the way we do today. Put laws in place that protect us against voter fraud. Investigate every state. Film the counting. Flush out the fake votes. Require ID. Make voter fraud end in 2020. Fix the system. I mean, it's not really saying, she's never really saying that the election was rigged or fake or stolen. She's just saying that we need to do things to ensure the integrity of the system or the voting process. And what difference is that towards like in 2016 when Democrats were saying that Russia interfered with the election? So even if she did say anything like that, now like what else did he say? COVID. He didn't like her tweets on COVID were evil. What did she say about COVID? Open up your business and churches, put whatever regulation you want because that is your right, but open them up. You're telling me COVID-19 knows the difference between a protest or praise and worship. I haven't even been to church in over a decade, but I sure would go now. The world is open, but no one is allowed to work. Working is a right you as an American have. It gives us purpose, focus, pride, and most importantly, a way to support the ones we love. People are dropping like flies from depression and suicide, overdoses, murder. Enough already. Wow, what an evil. She's so evil. She totally deserves to get fired. She's just like, she's just trying to say like, these laws don't make sense, which is true because they act like COVID, like some things are okay and some things aren't, and it seems kind of arbitrary. I don't even see, how is this even controversial, any of this shit? It's ridiculous. She's like trying to support people that need to work. She's trying to be supportive of people that, a lot of people committed suicide as a result of the lockdowns. There was murders during some of the protests. I don't see what's so like why she's so evil. She was called like abhorrent. Well, we'll get more into this.
then they're just, pigs amongst ravens. Like they're just that fucking stupid. So here we go.
Sincere. And the truth was that she was using this tweet to actually bring people together and to unite people. People still twisted her words and said that she was comparing conservatives to victims of the Holocaust, and that simply wasn't true. Even Saturday Night Live decided to cover what happened. Here's a clip.
Hi, Gina. Are you here to apologize?
I'm here for the opposite of that. I've done nothing wrong. No one could even explain what I did wrong. Explain it.
Okay, on Instagram, you said conservatives have it as bad as people living in Nazi Germany.
Okay, congrats, you explained it. Look, I never would have made that Nazi comparison if I'd known everybody was going to be such a Nazi about it.
So essentially, this live resulted in her losing a big role in a major movie. It resulted in her having her personal character attacked, her career being tarnished, and so on. All behind something that wasn't even in the tweet in the first place.
Here's where things get stupid. John wants us to believe that because it's not explicitly stated in the text that Gina Carano copied over, right? She didn't write the tweet. She just kind of retweeted it, right? It was a little meme or whatever that she packaged up and sent out on her social media. And because it doesn't specifically say that conservatives are being treated like Jews, that's not what she meant. It only heavily implies that. And he's acting as if all of us should be just that goddamn stupid to think that that's not what
he's implying that it means that because he thinks she's a conservative. It does. If you take the tweet on its own, Jew. Where is it here? Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? It just says you shouldn't hate someone for their political views. It doesn't say, don't hate conservatives, Democrats. It doesn't say, it's saying Democrats don't hate conservatives and conservatives don't hate Democrats. It's saying it's not even a it's not partisan. It's a message of like, don't hate people. How is that bad?
she meant, given the fact that people that followed her political ramblings on social media knew where she stood when it came to a lot of political stances. They knew what she meant, and they knew the podcast where she got this from.
That's so stupid, man. That means like anytime you post anything, you have to have all these like your whole bias attached to it. Like, can't you just? That's so dumb. It's such an unfair straw man that Jefferson is proposing here. I can't. Of course, no one is gonna call his Red Fang won't call him out on it. Of course.
So this idea that he's just trying to play disingenuous. Well, she didn't blatantly. Like, you need to read between the lines, and you need to read things in context, and you need to put the images that are being used in connection with the words in context. John. So, like, this is a guy who goes, "What do you meme?" Yeah, what did she meme? Did you get what the meme was? Because you clearly don't. Ding dong.
Now, we've all seen and heard stories about someone who spent 20 years in prison for a crime that they didn't commit, only to have some evidence come forward eventually proving their innocence. When this happens, we can only imagine the relief that people must feel after being falsely accused for so long and finally being vindicated by the truth. It was the truth coming out that had the ability to change the people's perception of that person, and in this case, the truth literally set them free from prison. Now, I hope that we can all agree that someone shouldn't be punished for something that they didn't do and something that they weren't guilty of, and we should be relieved when the truth comes forward, right? Well, I guess that depends. In today's culture, we have people put in situations like Gina where they can be lied on, publicly shamed, slammed, harassed, and even have their lives threatened based on lies. But only in these cases, the truth won't set them free. It doesn't matter how sincere her intentions were, and it doesn't even matter that she wasn't even comparing conservatives to the Holocaust victim.
Yes, she fucking was. The meme directly... Look, it compares political ideology with a racist regime that was looking to kill a group of people because
but it's not
how they were born.
Specific.
You were not born a political conservative.
It's not specific as your
peddling
ideology.
The same kind of narrative is a bunch of fucking horseshit. And I suspect that John knows this. If John doesn't know this, that means he's not bright.
No,
but whatever Gina
it's so dishonest, Jefferson. Like the same thing. Whatever.
Carano was trafficking in, and most of this kind of stuff. It's the same usual kind of rat fuckery, right-wing bullshit that usually happens, right? Like, she did trans thing where people had challenged her to like, deal with like the sensitivity of dealing with trans pronouns, and so instead of putting in she, her, or he, him, or they, them, she put in beep, bump, boo, right?
Do you hear how he describes this? Listen to how he described that story. Let me play this again. Then I'll tell the real story. This is such a lie. This is such a lie.
That means he's not bright. But whatever Gina Carano was trafficking in and most of this kind of stuff, it's the same usual kind of rat fuckery, right-wing bullshit.
Rat fuckery, right-wing bullshit.
That usually happens, right? Like she did trans thing where people had challenged her to like, you know, deal with like the sensitivity of dealing
People had challenged her to deal with the sensitivity
with trans pronouns.
The sensitivity of dealing with trans pronouns. People challenged her. So this is Jefferson's definition of people challenging her. In my experience, screaming at someone that they are a racist when they are indeed not a racist, and any post or research you do will show those exact facts, then I'm sorry, these people are not educators, they are cowards and bullies. Say Black Lives Matter and post links and we'll stop. Dear trolls, oh, but make sure you keep checking in from all the other. She was getting harassed. Look at these tweets. This is what being challenged. She was getting fucking harassed, but Jefferson calls this being challenged to be sensitive about trans. And you know why? Okay, she didn't have pronouns in her Twitter bio, so that justified people in sending her all these tweets because she didn't have. Why does she have to put pronouns in the bio? Who cares if she does or doesn't? Gina, I fucking hate you, racist bitch. So how does it feel being a racist dipshit? Gina, say you're a racist bootlicker. How does it feel to be a clown and a racist? This is just... Jefferson described this as challenging her. Pursuit of ending your acting career because you're a racist. You're literally a racist. You shade Black Lives Matter. You block people telling you to say Black Lives Matter. You post pro-cop propaganda that makes you a racist bitch. Cara Dune would literally hate her guts. Fucking racist, piss baby, ignorant. You are a bootlicker and a racist. Stop talking. I mean, she was getting fucking harassed by like so many people. Shut up, white woman. Shut the fuck up, lady. None of the people you blocked were trolls. They were people who actually give a shit about the world's issues, unlike you. The only trash around here is you, Hunt. I mean, like, why would you respond to someone like that? I hope you fucking choke. So this is challenging her to be sensitive. I mean, they were bullying and harassing her, but Jefferson describes it as challenging her.
And so instead of putting in she, her, or he, him, or they, them, she put in beep, bump, boop, right?
She put in beep, bop, boop. That fucking cunt. Beep, bop, boop. What a fucking white bitch. Cunt. I mean, get real.
So clearly, you know, like it's a little bit of not quite a middle finger to anybody that's talking
Yeah,
about
a
the issue,
middle.
but
How is
not
that
exactly productive?
beep?
Either. And
Beep, bop, boop is a middle finger, but don't use Kara or Leia to make some point. All people want is you to stop being shady, but you can't. Can you, Gina? Fuck you. That's not a middle finger. That's challenging. Right? That's challenging. But beep bop boop, dude, don't say beep bop boop. That's crossing a line. That's a big middle finger to trans people. Beep bop boop. Wow. Oh my god, that's horrible. You said that? You fucking cunt. I mean, what the hell? This is like so bizarre, dude. Holy shit, dude.
also, not exactly respectful to anybody on either side of that particular discussion. She's basically just literally kind of trolling everyone.
Yeah, it's not respectful to say beep bop boop. Are you fucking... How is that disrespectful? It's so fucking lighthearted, dude, compared to all this shit she's getting. What the fuck? Look at all these, like... Oh my god, whatever, dude.
Kind of self-deprecating way. When this thing came out, this followed on the heels of lots of other things. The way John seems to be bringing this thing up, it's like it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like there's this isolated post that she brought out, and because it's connected to conservatives, yeah, they just attacked her. This stuff had been going on since I think
She got attacked because there was no pronouns in her bio. What is... How has that not come out of nowhere, dude? She didn't have pronouns in her bio. How is that any reason to be attack someone? Think about that. I mean, Jefferson, what in the fuck?
3 or 4 months before this stuff happened, right? And
Yeah.
and as it happened, as it was going on, one of the things that happened, because it came out in like the Hollywood Reporter, he gets into this. Hollywood Reporter and Variety ended up reporting on it, that Lucasfilm executives actually reached out to her and they're like, "Look, we're not going to do a James Gunn thing. Disney did this once before with James Gunn, and then we had to backpedal. We looked stupid. So here's the thing: you're in, you're good. Knock it the fuck off. Dial back your social media stuff, right? This is coming from
Right.
like rumors from behind the scenes. She didn't. This thing that she did with like the Polish woman fleeing, being
She didn't think that the things she was posting were offensive. It was just like they take things and blow it up and make a mountain out of a molehill.
assaulted in the ghetto photo, followed on that happened, and then 2 other posts happened within the same week, within a few days of each other, and she deleted 2 of them, and then people found them and archived them, and then went after her on them. And that's when Lucasfilm was like, "Look, you know what? You got a behavior clause in your contract. We have certain standards we want to do. That's what we're going to do. We're gonna cancel this shit." Um, I would put this one simple way: if you live in a conservative town, a very conservative town, let's say you live in the kind of town that I think John would like to live in, right? Of what do you mean? And let's say that
Okay.
you walk into
He tries to present a hypothetical, but this ends up just being a pathetical. I'll demonstrate this.
your favorite diner, and one of the waitresses is wearing an Antifa armband just to do it. And John and lots of his fellow citizens just keep complaining about, Teresa and her weird Antifa armband. She's not supposed to be doing that. And those complaints get to her boss, and her boss is like, "Look, here's the thing: you can keep wearing the Antifa armband, or you can find yourself another job." And Teresa's like, "Fuck all of them. I'm going to keep wearing the armband." And the owner is like, "Well, then I'm going to have to let you go." It's as simple as that.
Yep.
If people
No, it's not, because the whole point is there's a double standard. It'd be like if you're wearing an Antifa armband and someone else is wearing a I don't know, Republican armband, Trump armband, whatever, Proud Boys armband, then it's like you fire the person wearing the Proud Boys armband and you let the person wear the Antifa armband. That's what's going on. So the whole point is people are upset that there's a double standard, because if you're going to have rules like, don't post politically charged controversial messages, then they should apply to everyone, because Pedro Pascal compared Trump supporters to Nazis and Confederate soldiers, but he didn't get in trouble. So the whole point, Jefferson, is there's a double standard.
people think that these ding-dongs need to be protected in their speech, given their particular jobs, then what you need to do is democratize the workplace. But as long as you continue to believe that the United States is a democracy when you vote for your political representatives, but a tyranny when it comes to actually who you work for, the fact that Lucasfilm or Disney fired Gina Carano for acting up and causing a shitstorm with the customers is exactly what has happened in the United States for the last several hundred years. The customer is always right. Whatever makes money always wins, etc. None of this shit
Yep.
these conservatives are trying to peddle to anyone is anything new. The only thing they're trying to dish out is that they get to say stuff and they get a pass and other people get checked. That's what they're attempting to establish here. Ben Shapiro's been trying it, and it seems like John from What Do You Mean is trying to get on this kind of weird, whack ass, half-assed way of getting into the whole thing. Um, this is bullshit. This is flat out bullshit. So we'll continue playing this out because he continues to like apologize for these numbskulls in the most. It's just slovenly and weak-willed and stupid.
As all of the reports accused her of. What matters is the narrative that they attach to her in order to further a political narrative. That narrative today has become far more important than truth to most people. As a society,
I don't know. I think I got pretty much the main points I wanted to get across. Like, I hope anyone who's watched this can see that Jefferson is totally full of shit. And, you know, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. But people should be allowed to say what they want. And yes, the company should be allowed to fire who they want. But if the company behaves like the way they behave, then that company needs to have its customers abandon it, because obviously it's in league with the Chinese Communist Party and doesn't care about America. Thank you.
Just get down here, baby. Let everybody down here. We're going to miss the bus. Just get down here, all right?
they've conditioned us not to focus on the truth, but
No,
instead
that
to
wasn't
only
my
focus
beef,
on the narrative.
Man, I
So
don't
much
know
that the
somebody
truth
else.
doesn't
Just
even
get
matter
down
to
here, all
us.
The
All right,
narrative
all
that
right.
John's talking about here is the simple narrative that people use to kind of sum up what she did, right? What they summed up was she basically conflated her treatment in a particular political camp with the treatment that the Jews received during the invasion of Poland. That's not inaccurate. And the fact that he's trying to turn this into something more nuanced or whatever without actually dealing with the details of that particular tweet is completely dishonest and silly, frankly. This is not a mature way to approach any of these topics. What he's doing is stupid. He's white knighting for somebody without actually dealing with the issue he's attempting to shield the person he's attempting to protect from. Oh my God.
You about to feel the chronicles of a bionicle lyrically spitting, dismissing. I'm on a mission and just hitting. Now it's written and kitten, hitting with mittens. I'm missing, wishing, man, listen. I glisten like sun and water while fishing. Bust the move in this word. Serve words with nerve embedded. I said it word, damn you nerd, man, you heard. Coming from the town of Illy and alleys are full of Phillies and rallies. Suckers get silly and Sally. Them found in alleys and rowdy. Really? So here we go. Now holla if you hear me though. Come and feel me. Flow. Never mixing with tricking brothers, bitching over fixings that ain't fitting to be hitting for nothing. Spitting things is bitten and getting written off. You're like a platter, bad platter, boy, you're pissing me off. Boy, you even started. So what? So long. See you fly by my try. How else could I say it when you play it? Try boom. Bye bye, bye bye. Here we go. Now holla if you hear me though. Come and feel me flow. Here we go. Now holla if you hear me though. Come and feel me flow. The flow pro poetical with skills only a better, no better, no way the weather flow that's on point like decimals, manhandling new crews, partying with the zoo crew, looking for the pink and poo-poos. I thought you knew two stone styles of stamina, jamming, and while we're planning the jam, we bust with a party amateur damages, managing, damaging mice, men, and even mannequins. You're a fan again, now I wanna know the man again. Naughty's back like vertebrae, word to hey I ho, the way I show you pray I flow. Steady breaking to the boogie, so bang time to slang bang and watch all the poo tag tag tag. Here we go, now holla if you hear me though, come and feel me flow. Here we go, now holla if you hear me though, come and feel me flow. Playing K, you break the body up, the beat the break into boogie. Firm and fully chase bass lines like bullies. All we wanna know is if your body wanna party, it's the poop tang tang for everybody. So hip up and split up, get up, your wit up, souped up, put your dukes up, no guts set up for sit up, flip up, watch us rip up, shake shows until they fizz up, like you're with us. If not, zip up your lip up, whip up. Hits with ransom, foul styles get and once we came back 'cause we heard hip hop needed another anthem, black like Noah. In fact, in for ya, and we was back in the days with the drifts, we'd have been known as the flowers. Revenue since the 70s, find me. So we went crazy in the 80s, so we won't kiss heinies in the 90s. Oops, the naughties, troops in sections of 40. So clap your hands and hold your shorty. I'm naughty. Here we go now. Holla if you hear me though. Come and feel me flow. Here we go now. Holla if you hear me though. Come and feel me flow. Here we
by the Nazi government is nothing equivalent to what was being directed towards, her as a conservative in Hollywood. And the fact that she's getting fired or dismissed from a job based on her behavior on social media is something that can happen to anyone, regardless of whether or not they're even a celebrity or not.
Right.
It's just so. Here we go.